Guys, BJ the Brave here, back with part 2 of FORGECAST, episode 16 we're up to now. That is a podcast about Warhammer 40k Warpforge. I am joined, as ever, by the Ecclesiarch. How are you, mate?
Doing perfect, doing the Emperor's work in Space Marine, as mentioned. So, feeling great.
Always feels strange asking how you are when we've just done part 1 of the podcast and been talking for half an hour. If you've not seen that, guys, go and check out the Ecclesiarch's channel. We've just been ranting on about our first seasons on the ladder, talking about Space Marine 2, talking about the new warlord that's entered Warpforge and other things too. So yeah, if you didn't catch that, go back and check out part 1. I'll link that below on this video. Anyway, what we're going to talk about in this section is we're going to start off by just having a little bit of a reflect on Season 1 of the brand new ladder system, which is something that you and I were really excited about, something that I've been asking for and praying would come to this game from back in the Gwent Pro League days. They've kind of like mirrored that system a little bit. So I thought, we've already talked about like what we played and all that sort of stuff, but I thought we could just have a little bit of a chat about what do we think now that we're a season in. What's worked? What do we love about it? Is there anything we'd like to see change? And then we're going to get stuck into some talk because we've just had a raid drop literally as we're recording this. So I'll share my screen. We'll have a look at the raid. We'll have a look at some of the cards, and we'll just get excited about Necrons. All right. So let's start with the ladder then. So yeah, obviously, Ecclesiarch, we've talked about the ladder no end. What was your experience of it? What do you think now that we've seen it actually run for a season?
I would say that my experience generally is very positive. I think that I was very excited when I heard that they were actually doing it, because I remember you were mentioning that like from the early days, like we're talking almost a year ago already. So yeah, I'm very, very happy that EG went there. I think this is one. I've been playing their games like for a while now, like maybe 3 years at least, like Warpforge and HHL, maybe even more, I don't know. And I gotta say, this thing that they did with the ladder has to be one of the best decisions they have ever made for the game, because this is so good.
Yeah.
Because, like, first of all, even during the whole Scarab and Gene Stealer Cult extravaganza, basically, I was not facing them a lot because, you know, I would go on the ladder and I was still like, okay, maybe I'll face like 10 out of 4 matches. I'm going to have those guys. But it's definitely better than having them 9 out of 10 matches, right? So it really helps balance the overpowered stuff. Like whenever there's like something going crazy, this kind of a rank system handles it, because it tells you, okay, yeah, you can play that, but if you just want to play that, sorry, but you're going to end up still lower ranked than some ultramarine player or some guy who's playing Tyranids, Sisters, and something. So definitely helps with the game. It also has discouraged camping, which is really good. And overall variety has been crazy. I've been loving making some videos and stuff on it, because every time I play, there's a different warlord I'm facing. So overall, my review is very positive. If you remember, I also did the survey on it, and most people said that this was a very good step for the game.
Good step, yeah.
There were like 1 or 2 things that people mentioned, which I agree are a negative, but unfortunately, I do believe that negative is something that is worth all the positive that this thing brings into the game. Though some people have said it maybe have 3 instead of 4, but that's already details, right? In general, I think it has been really, really good. What do you think, BJ?
Yeah, I agree. I think everything Ecclesiarch just said there, absolutely awesome for the game. And I told you, I told you this was tailor-made for something like Warpforge. We've got all these really strong faction identities. You can't cross factions, so you can't have a deck that's like half Ultramarines and half Eldar. So it really suits this system, right? Like, it wouldn't work as well in Magic, where you can mix different colors and all that sort of stuff. Like, but in this, it's so made for it. And I was like, oh my god, please. And I have to say, it has like really lived up to it. Imagine last season was like we didn't have the new ladder system. Imagine the top 50, all anyone was playing was Scarabs or GSC combo. It would have gone down as one of the worst field seasons ever in the game. But instead, what happened was the meta changed, and those decks became the crux of which everyone adapted to. So you tweaked decks. Abaddon went up, for example. Abaddon was very strong into those decks. You start seeing people playing Abaddon, which meant that, let's say you were an Eldar player, and you were like, oh, I'm hating this because these Scarabs beat me up. Suddenly you're facing more Abaddons, and you're, hey, that's a positive matchup for me as an Eldar collector. So, like, it has such a the complexity and how it kind of like impacts the experience and the meta is like, we could talk for hours. But ultimately, in a nutshell, it added a ton more variety. Also, another thing that's worth saying is I really love, like, one of the features that I love about it is that your peak score never goes down, right? So if Ecclesiarch gets his Abaddon up to 3k and then he goes on 3 losses in a row, the score he's posting for Chaos is still 3k, even though his actual current score goes down to like 2,920 or whatever. So I think that's really positive too, because you don't feel as bad then about like losing games, and it encourages you to try, because you might go, well, you know what, I'll test something. If I lose a few, I can climb back up to peak, but at least I've got my score up there, and I think that that's a really cool feature. What else? The only thing I've mentioned is I do wish you could kind of see, like, if I click on your profile, you're on my friends list. If I click on your profile, I can't see your, I can see your front page, but I can't see your kind of ranks. That's weird to me. Like, you should definitely be able to see your friends,
Yeah.
and especially when we've got alliances. Like, you want to check on your alliance members, how are they getting on and where are they and stuff, and you can't see any of that stuff. So, but I mean, it has only just landed. This might be on their to-do list. You know, this might be something that's like a less urgent but important feature that they want to add. Hopefully that is true. EG, if you're listening, please add that. But yeah, overall, I'm so happy, and I found myself playing more. I don't know about you, like, I found myself being able to like test more and playing more, and also me and you have famously talked about the fact that we're not the most disciplined players, right? We're not like, you know, like some of the guys on my faction, like Shrigma, can just play 300 games with one deck, and like I can play like 20 games, and then my head is, I need to do something different.
Same.
And that's what's great about this. You can go, okay, let's park my Abaddon deck. Let's go and play a bit of Onval. Let's go play a bit of Junif. So I just think that the whole thing has been great, and also knowing that I suppose the biggest thing is knowing that you're not going to queue into the same deck every game. Like in the ultramarine season, that's what it was like. The last week, you just played against ultramarine, and a bit of Swarmlord or something, but like now it's like, okay, I just got thumped by Swarmlord. Never mind. Now I've got Anvir, or oh look, now I've got Warshaper. You know, there was so much variety. It was fantastic. So yeah, I'm super happy with it, dude. I'm super happy with it. Is there anything in terms of like your wish list for the ladder, or anything you want them to kind of see evolve?
That's actually a good question. I would say, in terms of the ladder, I don't have like a big wish list. The only thing I can think of is that currently I think the next focus should be alliances and draft. Like, we need more features for alliances, so that once again it feels a little more, you know, like you're playing a co-op thing, right?
Right.
Like you're doing something together. So
Yeah.
more rewards for alliances, more chances of helping your teammates out, and you know, I think they're getting there. I'm not gonna go around and say they're not doing it. I know they're gonna do it because we've had it in HHL. They're gonna do it, and it's gonna be better than in HHL. I'm sure they're gonna expand it. So yeah, I'm just waiting. I'm
Cool.
satisfied with ladder as it is.
Looks like we are very, very happy with it. So good job, EG. All right, let's talk about some Necrons. So the raid has literally just dropped as we were mid-recording, and if you've not seen it yet, Ecclesiarch did an excellent reveal video for the new cards. That came out, I think, yesterday. So go check that out, where you get the first impressions. So I thought we'd just like start by having a little look at the raid and just talking a bit about the cards. So this is the raid, Ramtech the Cruel. One of the things I absolutely love immediately is that the best card in the release is the first one that's going to be open. So that's pretty cool. Like, we're going to start being able to play with it this season. I think that has been some feedback, right? That yes, the cards are out in the raid, but people can't actually use them properly until a good week after. But already we might see some things. But just before we go through this, if I go to offers, you can obviously buy the premium raid, which I have done, and that gives you 1,500 crystals. Now you can just buy cards straight away. Are they called crystals? No, tokens, is it?
Yep, those
Medals?
are tokens.
Or medals? I think they might be medals. Anyway, it's 1,500, so we could get Ramtech straight away here. or I'm actually tempted, and maybe I'll even do it on stream. Maybe after we've had this conversation, maybe I'll actually spend my 1500. Could be fun. So these are the ones that can be purchased, and then you've actually got the ones that we're going to open unlock. So let's start there. So on the unlock, we got the Canoptech Constructs is the title. I don't know.
No.
I'm still annoyed about titles. I just don't see the point of them because they don't display them.
Probably they will, because in HHL badges and titles were displayed. They will do it.
Oh, I was meant to ask you whether you think that the new ladder system would work well in HHL.
Okay, guys, disclaimer. I'm not pushing anything because a lot of HHL players are gonna shooting squad me because of that, firing squad me. But I think it would be a great addition to HHL as well. However, a lot of HHL players have expressed negative opinion on implementing that. I personally think that it's the Warpforge hate, because I'm an HHL player and I would like to see that in HHL as well, because there's a shit ton of warlords in HHL. We got like 38 factions or something, and it really sucks when you have 38 factions and people are playing 3.
Yeah.
So why not have the same thing?
Yeah, exactly.
I definitely like to see it. Well, just my opinion.
Okay, back to Necrons. The next up, then, the first one that's going to unlock, the first real card, is going to be the Immortals Phalanx. So this card is a 7 health, 6e costing card. Obviously 3 melee, 7 range. Regeneration, and it does come with Remnant, which is nice. Regeneration 1. When reanimated, deploy a copy of this troop. Now, I heard in your first impressions you talked about this like this was the card in the whole thing that you felt could potentially break the game.
That's the card that I actually don't like. I in general love these reinforcements. I think the reinforcements are awesome. There's a lot of cool cards. There's a lot of cool control tools. We're gonna get into that in more detail, but this is a card that I dislike. I'll tell you why I dislike it. Because it has one of the most cancerous mechanic that has never really worked in EG games. Like, never in EG games have we ever had a card that copies itself that has not broken the game. In HHL, there was the rot flies, and they ended up being nerfed. We got the scarabs here that break the game, and now we got these guys. I think the problem with this is the following. So you drop this unit. By itself is not a good unit. It's just a 6 energy 3/7/7.
Yeah.
Nothing crazy. However, keep this in mind. If in the case scenario where you have the shield for this guy enabled, somebody has to deal 7 damage, then they have to remove the shield, and then they have to kill it. And if that happens, that means they've wasted 3 attacks on it. That means that they should either at least waste hard removal plus a nuke or an attack on it, or, essentially it's very hard. What I'm trying to say is that it's very hard to remove. If you can't remove it, you kind of lost the game, because it resurrects, and now the enemy has 2 7 HP units on the board. Yeah. Now you need 6 attacks to remove it.
Oh yeah, it's a win con if it goes off, right?
And even if you manage to remove it, if somebody drops a Tomb World on you, then suddenly he has 2 of these guys or more of these guys on the board. I think it's a win con, which makes a lot of sense, which win cons are good. But I want to kind of differentiate a good win con from a bad one. So can you just open up the raid again for a second?
Are you going to talk about a different card, though? Because I was going to come back on that.
Yes. I want to look at the... We can go into detail later, but I want to look at the legendary one for a second.
This one.
Yeah, I think that is an example of a good win con, right? You drop this, and if the enemy can't deal with this, even if the enemy actually removes it, you get a resurrection orb, right? This is big value. Once again, stats are not that crazy for a 6-drop. And if the enemy can't remove the remnant, you're going to keep making resurrection orbs. This is actually a good one, because no matter what you do, you're only ever going to have 1 Locust Lord, except one case that we're going to talk about later. So this is like a very... this is something you can deal with, okay? This is easier to deal with. There are, as we mentioned, there are no jams in the game currently, and that means that you have to kill it and you have to destroy the remnant, right? Else the enemy can resurrect it. The other one is bad because, if for Locust Lord you're not able to fix it, the enemy is just getting more resurrection orbs, and all you really have to do is clear the board of remnants. Don't let him spam too many remnants, and it's not going to be that much of a problem.
Mm.
Although it's still very difficult to deal with. But the other one is just crazy because every time you fail to remove something, 2 more pop up. And it's not a Scarab, it's a friggin' 7/7. So, I don't know. Combine that with Implacable Conqueror, because technically then they can come for cheaper. And I think that this card has potential to just be very, very, very toxic. I don't know. I might be wrong. Time will tell, but I can already see this ruining some things.
So let me
The only card I don't like it.
Let me run some thoughts past you and see what you think to this. So I agree with everything you said, and I totally can see how potentially this is like, I mean, it's a massive win condition, right? If you get off what you just said, it's a massive win condition. The other thing which you haven't said, which I think makes this far more scary, is the fact that Implacable Conqueror exists in the game. Like, when this thing's costing you 4 energy, or God forbid 2 energy, that's when this thing is going to be absolutely mental. Now, fair enough, you could say a similar thing about a lot of cards with Implacable Conqueror, you like the Ghost Ship and other things, although I probably would say this would be peak. Implacable Conqueror, like, there would be nothing better you could draw in the faction than this card, pretty much. So, like, Implacable Conqueror makes me think that this might break the game. But outside of that, if we look at this as a 6-drop, my argument is that, think about what you just said. First of all, you've got to have drawn Undying Legions and played it, which is a one-off in your deck, which is legendary, and you have to have played it before E6, right? This is just to make happen what you said, right? Then, second of all, you play this on 6, and it does nothing. When you play it, it's a 6-drop with 3 melees, because there's no flank here. It does nothing, which means I get to hit you, and I can trade against 3 melee, and you paid 6 energy for that. So, like, imagine, like, Vet Stormboy Makari, off you go. So, thirdly, I've got to not clear the Remnant, and granted, if you got Undying Legions, which, if we played 100 games with this right now, how many games of that 100 would that combo happen by E6? So, even if we managed to get it off beforehand, I can still clear it, right? But let's say I don't. Let's say you don't have the Undying Legions, then it's just one thing. I can clear it with the Warlord, no problem. So I feel like the thing with this is, yes, it's got a very powerful win con, but actually there are a lot of things that have to line up for you to get that off. And in addition, it does cost 6 energy. So, to me, this is not like by the time you've got the board where you've broken the game and you've clearly won, it's probably going to be E8, maybe by E8 we could say, if you've res this thing twice, yeah, you've won, right? Whereas I feel like I don't know, I feel like there's a lot of other win conditions that are far more consistent and far more uninteractable. I mean, you think about E8 Gruk, for example. Like, I've got double Proper Killy, double Warbiker buffed, and Makari in hand, and you can't do it. It's all from hand, and it does the damage instantly. Whereas these things, you've got to put them down, then you've got to wait a turn, then you get to swing with your 7. So I'm not. I'm just making a case here. I'm not saying that you're wrong, because I could absolutely see this being broken, especially with Implacable Conqueror. But I'm just saying, like, I feel like it's potentially not as quite as, like, consistently good as, and where we're on this ladder system where as soon as people start kind of like winning one, losing one, winning one, losing one, it doesn't matter how big they won and they got 10 of these down, they get frustrated with it because they can't climb consistently. So I don't know. I think it's a cool card. I like the, and it speaks to Necron's theme, doesn't it? Like, immortal phalanx. It's all in the word, right? Like wording. It's
yeah,
cool.
obviously you got the phalanx. I think I'll just put it out there. I think the way to, if this card ends up being overpowered, as I said, like, we're still yet to see it.
Yeah.
If the card ends up being overpowered, I think the way you fix it is just make sure that the copies don't summon copies.
Yeah, I think that's
Everguild has used that tactic before on the Rotflies in HHL. Made it so that the copies summoned didn't summon anymore.
That makes sense.
So probably it's gonna be like that, because I mean, 1 resurrection is already huge value, because, like, you waste 1 energy and you get 2 7/7s.
Yeah.
Scary.
All right, let's move on. I knew that one would be the controversial one. The inescapable retribution. So this is quite interesting because, first of all, it's a stratagem, but it deploys two of our tomb blades, which are pretty infamously used in Necron. So we know that this is a pretty good unit, right? With the remnant. What do you think to this one?
I think it's pretty nice.
Yeah.
It's pretty nice because Necrons have been experiencing some removal issues lately, mostly due to the fact that the Curse of the Pharaoh has been gutted into almost being unusable, or even unusable. I don't see people running it anymore. So they did need something for it, and I think this is a good one. And the interesting part here is you could use it on any one of those warlords. Like Control Emotech can use it to just drag the game, and Nemesaur is good because you get two of these. I guess they will be summoned to the sides of the warlord, and then the remnant stick. So we suddenly have two remnants of Tomb Blades, which is good. So I think it's overall a pretty good card. I like it.
The other thing that, apart from, like you say, being a good card, that it's almost like 2.5 instead of 3 costing, the other thing I think that's important here is that it's a stratagem. So what this means from a deck building point of view is because we've now got cards that, for example, say draw a troop, or like choose a troop from your deck. What that means is you can use this card to basically build fewer troops into your deck, but you still get access to troops. Does that make sense? Yeah, so
Absolutely.
so in other words, you increase the consistency of the troops that you want to draw. Like I've got a Necron Lord in there, for example, whereas this wouldn't count for that, but yet still produces troops when you actually cast it from hand. So I really like this card. I definitely can see myself playing this, especially with the new draw cards. And then you also mentioned, you already talked about the Lord. Yeah, I'm kind of interested. It's a destroyer. I mean, what do we think about destroyer now? Like, there's quite a lot of destroyer cards, and obviously we've got a destroyer warlord, which we'll come on to in a minute. But obviously, this guy for 6, like I actually really like this card. I think 6 health for 6 is not amazing, but in a way, you want this guy to die and get the Resorb. So I actually really like this guy. I think he's going to be a good legendary. What do you think?
I love it. I absolutely adore it. And I don't think, okay, controversial opinion, I don't think it's overpowered. A lot of people might say it is because the stat line is not that good, but the backlash is amazing. I think this is a textbook must-have card on Nemesaur because you know, it is just there. And you could even have it for Emotech if you wanna, but not really. Or actually, here's the fun part. Some people don't like using Resurrection Orb on Emotech. That includes me. And this guy gives it to you for free. And you know, a lot of times I think what people will do is people will now start omitting Resurrection Orb and including this guy instead. But on control, that is. And Nemesaur will include both because you can never go wrong with 2 Resurrection Orbs on Nemesaur. But on Emotech, hey, you didn't like the Resurrection Orb? Well, there you go. Now we have a Locust Lord, and it's going to give you one for free. Very, very good card. I love the design, and I hope it's not going to break the game or anything. I think it won't, because I love it, and I would hate to see it nerfed. Pretty cool card.
Yeah,
one
I
of my
agree.
favorites.
I agree. Looking forward to using that. Actually,
I want that avatar.
I was going to say, I might actually cash in on that avatar. That's quite sweet. All right, let's have a look at the cards that can be purchased then. So as we said, 1,500 medals for the if you get the premium. And we can get the Warlord straight off. I'm actually not going to pay for the Warlord because the Warlord is... I do have a wild card sitting in my collection, so I'm going to use that when he becomes available. But Ramatek the Cruel, what do we think to this guy? He's a Destroyer Warlord, and he has the High-Wired Destruction. He's only got 35 health, but it's give +1/+1 to a friendly unit until your next turn. And I believe that includes himself. If it's a Destroyer, which he is... give it armor 1 until your next turn. I actually really like this. I think I misread this when I first read it, but I mean, taking in exactly what it does, I actually really like it. Necrons, what do you think?
I think it's really cool because this is gonna be the guy who can even out-trade Titus because it's until your next turn. So it's not only for you. Most of these things are for like during your turn, all of these things, and this is until your next turn.
Yeah.
So he's going to be very strong. Don't forget that Disruption Blades will also affect this guy as well.
Oh, that's disgusting. Is it plus
So it's
3?
gonna be scary. It's +3, yes.
Oh boy.
So if you do double disruption blades, he's gonna have 8 damage plus this is gonna be 9 damage.
Oh God.
Thank the throne that Necrons don't have bloodthirst. And
How
yeah,
much does
that
Disruption Blaze cost? Is it 3?
3.
Oh my God! So it's their proper killie, isn't it? In a way.
In a way, it is. Yeah, it's pretty powerful, and I like it. I want to see a new type of aggro Necron because Nemesaur is not an aggro Necron. Nemesaur is a tempo one, so maybe this guy is gonna be the aggro Necron. I like it. I think it's also going to give him a ton of durability. And don't forget, there's a lot of things that can enhance that durability even further. Like, imagine running double pride, Immortal Pride, 3 armor on your warlord. Like, killing this guy will be hell. So, yeah, pretty cool.
Wait,
I like him.
Does that mean that the flanker, the 4E flanker, what's his attack range now then with the...
Yes.
Oh my God,
He's going to
8?
have 6 and he's going to have armor. Oh, you mean Disruption Blade? Yeah, with Disruption Blade, it's 8, yeah.
Or 9 with you put this power on it as well. Oh boy. Wow. I mean, Destroyer might be a thing now.
It will, for sure, it will.
The only thing
Plus,
is...
we got a few more as well, so yeah.
Yeah, I'm interested. Okay, looking at trying to build that deck. This card's very interesting to me, right? We've got the damaged Hexmat. It's got Remnant. It's also a Destroyer. And it's kind of a finisher, right? So it seems to work well with the Ramtech deck that we just talked about. Basically, Artifice, attack by himself. So my understanding here is you can play this guy on the board, and if you Artifice, it can attack the Warlord, a bit like Fast. If there's no units on the board.
Exactly. So if it's an empty board, this guy is a finisher, potentially a very powerful finisher.
Yeah.
A little bit toxic, but I do like the destroyer mechanic on it because that kind of helps you limit the toxicity. Because as long as there are units on the board it can kill, then it's not going to attack the warlord, right? So there's that, and the stats are crap, of course. So pretty interesting, though. It leaves a remnant. Yeah, I'm just scared that. There are 2 cards here that, like, Scarabs are gonna abuse it. That's the only thing I'm scared of. Yeah, I don't want that.
Is that one of them for Scarabs?
I mean, you do get, like, the Orkz, who has the cheapest ability, so he can utilize this guy the fastest, so there's that. Unless you already have Immortal Pride on, in which your ability costs 0, and yeah. I don't know, like, how good this guy is, actually. But I do see it working on Orkz because sometimes you don't want to have this in your hand. Sometimes it's just trash. But with Orkz, you can kind of choose when you want to draw it in a way. So, yes.
I was thinking, though, even in a control Imatech, you might just run a single copy of this because they don't have that kind of beatdown. And it's a bit like when you think about Gas Fatigue control and Gruck control. Gas Fatigue doesn't have that beatdown bit, does it? Whereas the Gruck has all the control tools, but then he has the proper killy stuff. And I almost feel like he's a bit like the Warbiker or a proper killy option in a control, so you can switch gears if you need to, and that would get you some wins for sure. Very interesting card. Next up, we got one that I absolutely love, and I'm very, very tempted, and I'm going to ask your advice. But if I was to just buy cards, if I'm deciding that I'm not going to get Ramtech because I'm going to do a
Corridor.
I think I'm going to get the Corridor because
Corridor.
Choose a troop from your deck, draw it, and create a copy of it in your hand. Now, this is very unique in Necrons. We just had a buff to the, what's the card? The Implacable Conqueror, which draws a card now, and that's the first card draw in Necrons. We've now got another card draw here, and it essentially draws us 2 cards. What do you think?
That's amazing. BJ, why do you have 4 Lich Guard in your deck, basically? I like it. It's really good. And don't forget, you can get the Locust Destroyer, you can get Oberon. You can technically draw legendaries with this as well. This is really good.
This card is sick, man.
The whole Necron expansion feels like Hearthstone in a way, and you know, it's a good thing and a bad thing at the same time, but overall I'm loving it.
Yeah.
I think Dimensional Corridor is going to be an S tier card that everybody wants to.
100%. It's like if Emergency Dispensation is the Tau equivalent, that draws you the card and gives you the tempo. This draws you the card and gives you value. So it's perfect for Necrons as well. It's so
That's the Emotech. That's an Emotech card right there.
100. I think this is an everything card. Like this is.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got a Nemesis deck that I want to build and an Orkz deck. I could see this working very well with Implacable Conqueror. The thing I want to check is, let's say you've discounted with Implacable Conqueror. Lich Guard now only costs 3. So if you use this and you draw Lich Guard, does the copy of it also cost 3 or 5?
I believe so. I mean, we'll see about that, but I believe so.
If it does, that combination is unbelievable. What a swing that's going to be. Okay, next up we got the Flayed Ones pack. I really love this card too. I think in Nemesis this is going to be crazy, right? Like, imagine you drop this guy down, and then you play like your Warlord power. You put a blocker up, and then this guy comes out. And obviously, if you've got, I don't know, like a Extermination Protocol, you get another one of these. And in addition, it's got Artifice as well, so you can just keep bringing him back up and getting more. I mean, what do you think?
I think this is great. I'll tell you what I love about it and what I think might be the problem for it. But overall, I think this is a very strong card. Don't forget that with Oricon, you could play this at 3 energy when you're going second and get 2 Flayed Ones as well.
Yeah.
Very, very powerful card. Plus, don't forget Flayed Ones get fast when they resurrect. Extremely powerful tool. The only thing that might be questionable with this is that it's competing with a lot of things, because Necrons have 3 very powerful 3-cost troops, and now they also have Dimensional Corridor. So, very scary. But I think what this is my prediction. I think what this is actually going to do, funny enough, it is going to be replacing Triarch Praetorian in Nemesor decks, because Nemesor still has frontline. Like, I'm not even losing Lich Guard on my Nemesor, I think, because overall Nemesor gets the frontline on demand, so he really does not need frontline, because he not frontlines or Vanguard, because he already has it. So I think that 3 energy dude can go, and you could get a Flayed One, because with all the resurrections that you're going to be getting, this can be a very scary face damage. So yeah,
100%. And equally in like Nemesis decks and stuff, or Imatech decks, or Ramtech, I think you can ditch the Tomb Blades, because now we can draw Tomb Blades from this card instead. So we don't actually, that frees up the 3 slot to play that. So yeah, I think this is really cool. Really, man, this is this the best expansion? This might be the best reinforcement. This might be the best.
In terms of flavor and whatever it's bringing, it's definitely the best reinforcement pack, because none of the reinforcements have brought so much flavor. Orks were very straightforward, but it was still pretty good. Chaos was lackluster. was lackluster. And Tau, even though I think is one of the more balanced ones, the Tau, it was just big flank units. By the way, I'm regretting actually not grabbing the Kroot legendaries, the Warlord and the Kroot, because now I'm craving to play the Kroot Warlord, and those are the only 2 legendaries I don't have in the game currently. So I'm hoping I can get them soon.
I've got a good deck as well, a good War Shaper deck.
Yeah,
Let me know when you get them.
Will do.
All right, next up we got the Damaged Plasma.
Love it. This is amazing.
Go on.
Look at this, man. Like, regeneration 2 on your Warlord.
Yeah.
and imagine you.
How does that even work? How does that even work? So every turn he just basically heals 2.
Yes, at the end of every turn.
Yeah. Wow.
This is a very scary tool, because hide this behind Vanguard, and you got an unkillable Warlord. Nutty. And imagine if you also have the Immortal Pride. Oh my god.
Imagine him in Nemesis. This guy just sits next to Nemesis, and then you keep putting blockers up. And even if they get through it and kill this guy, then he gets back up. Nemesis is never going to die. And he's also... I think the only thing I do think about this is it's not a card that you particularly want to trade with, like the other Plasma site as well. And I remember we got a bit excited about that card when we saw the stats, and actually it doesn't really get played. I think what I could see with this one is it becoming a one-of. I could see it because it's not something you want to play on 2 either. You want to play
Yeah.
late game. So I think it's more like a one-of that you tech in, hoping to draw it in more in the mid to late game, and not really something you probably throw this away. If I had this in my opening hand, I'd probably throw it away. But it's interesting. It's really interesting with like regen, and obviously regen also speaks to big units. That's another reason why I think about it's more probably adapted to late game, because you want to be able to get units down with high health, right? Yeah, very interesting. All right, next up we got another destroyer, and this destroyer says Remnant. I like that more things are getting Remnant. That's good. When another troop dies, deal 1 damage to a random enemy. Is this just like the Scarab enhancer?
This is the Scarab enhancer as well as the anti-Scarab, because technically speaking, like this includes allied and enemy troops. So if you're playing against the Scarabs, this is very good. You drop this and like this clears the whole Scarab board. By the way, if you think about it, right?
So do I just buy 2 of these and play Scarabs then? Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah. Technically speaking, with Scarabs, it's also overpowered. It's the weirdest card in this batch. Like, bro, it's a Scarab card and an anti-Scarab card at the same time. I think, however, you know, in my video, I really crapped on the card. I was like, why are you giving Scarab support? But I think, actually, this is going to kick the Scarabs out, because if Necrons see that other Necrons are playing Scarabs, they're just going to include this, and it's an automatic Scarab, it beats Scarabs automatically.
Horrible mirror match, though. Horrible mirror match. Like, who draws this first? And then you got the Dimensional Corridor to draw it, and oh, boy.
So most probably 1 is going to be in a lot of decks just to deal with AoE issues. But I also don't like how Scarabs can abuse it as well, so it's kind of
The other thing is, Dimensional Corridor can probably draw it pretty consistently, because Scarabs is the one deck where they play a lot of stratagems, and there's not that many troops. So it's actually probably a pretty consistent strategy.
It is.
Oh god, is that what I'm buying? Is that what I'm going for? Oh dear. Anyway, before I get carried away, let's go on to this one. Now, my teammate in the Alliance, Slither, is quite excited about this card because we came up with a deck. Well, I mean, he came up with the original concept, and then we played it a lot together, and we kind of like revised it. But we had this deck that with the Implacable Conqueror, basically, and it was an Oricon deck, and it curves up to like the Ghost Ship, and obviously you start getting extra Necron warriors from that, and right up to the Monolith. And I actually wonder whether this could replace the Monolith in that type of deck, 2 of these, because the problem with the Ghost Ship is it's great, it's amazing value, but it is a bit slow. So unless you're playing like Triax Stalkers, it doesn't really necessarily give you like a beatdown win con. Whereas what this guy does, he does give you that. It gives you damage. Like if imagine having 1 of these and a bloody Ghost Ship up. I know that sounds you win more at that point, but or you play the Ghost Ship on 7, or or 9 or whatever, however you've done it. 8, sorry, because you played it with the Artifice. Your opponent uses hard removal, kills the Ghost Ship, but you've already got a troop out, a blocker out, and then you play this guy. I mean, I don't know whether my instinct is that it's not going to be good, this card, and I don't think it is going to be used. Although it is 8 health flying. That's not easy to get rid of outside of hard removal. What do you think?
That's only one thing that I'm gonna say about this is that it's not a vanilla card, and props to EG for that. Because every time they release like high cost cards, they're usually not good.
Yes.
This one is actually interesting because even though once again it's slow, there are ways you could play it. You could play it with Conqueror. There are things you could do with this, because it's not just a drop a card, do nothing, because it has Artifice, it's flying, so at least it's not a like dumb vanilla card. I actually like it. I don't know how much I'll use it, but I think it's pretty good. It's better than Monolith for sure.
What's the 6 drop that kind of also deals 3 damage every time you add?
Plasmancer.
So you could imagine a damage Artifice deck with Oricon. Oricon needs some identity, so maybe there's a Plasma Artifice deck now where you run like double that and double this. And
Most probably.
You just machine gun things down, basically.
Most probably that's how it's going to happen, yeah.
Interesting. And then, last but not least, we have the Awakened Dynasty. And I have to say that I think this card is cool as hell. First of all, it's another proper draw card. So Necrons finally have some draw. Draw 2 cards. It's a little bit more expensive than like the others, usually 3. Yeah. But the fact that you get 2 reanimation protocols if you draw two troops. I mean, to be honest, even just getting one, I think, is good. Like, this is a pretty hot card, isn't it?
It is, and it's more card draw. Necrons need card draw, always have needed. So, yeah, finally we get some card draw, which is great.
So that is. So we've seen the ones that are for sale. So what do you think? 1,500. What would you go for here? I was actually quite tempted to get the corridor and maybe the flayed one packs, because I kind of keen to see what a tempo-y kind of Nemesis deck looks like with that combo in, but I'm not sure. Not sure if I'm going to be able to decide here. Definitely one of these, right? We've got to try this card.
There's a lot of those cards I really want to get, and I'll have to farm like crazy for these cards, man.
I know, it's looking really good. Okay, cosmetics. Yeah, I'm not a massive fan of that card. What do you think?
That's a very interesting Simhan it has over the avatars.
Oh, yeah.
So, are they the same faction now, or what's going on?
Is that a clue? Is that an Easter egg?
I'm not sure what's going on, but
Not sure. You gonna get the premium campaign?
I already got it.
You got it. Nice, nice, nice.
Necrons. I mean, there was no way I was not getting that.
Yeah, I think Necrons are going to end up being my fourth faction this season, a lot of it, just because it's too much fun having new cards to play with.
I think the cards that I'm gonna go for at first are gonna be Dimensional Corridor as well, because I also have Legendary Wild card for Ravatech. I think I'll go for Dimensional Corridor, and then I'll try to get some flayed ones and maybe Plasma Sights or something. I'll see how it rolls.
Cool. All right, well, that's it for another episode of FORGECAST, episode 16 in the books, my friend. We are racking up the numbers. We'll be we're also hoping to have a follow-up with the devs. We haven't got any details to share with you guys yet, but we are in communication about that, because I know a lot of people really loved having Andreas on talking about the game and the future direction. So yeah, we're hoping that we can kind of do something around the time of the kind of Imperial Guard release there, but more information on that. So if you're interested in that, give us a like, let us know in the messages, and stay tuned for more FORGECAST. We'll see you in a few weeks. Take it easy, guys, and good luck on the ladder. Thanks, Ecclesiarch.
Thank you, my friend.